Hello everyone, in this video tutorial I'm going to show you how to correctly and safely unlock achievements in Steam using Unreal Engine 5. There's a problem with the Steam SDK in general that if you try to unlock multiple achievements at the same time or with the too little or short time duration in between the unlock operations, that it's not going to work, it's not going to do anything. And in this SDK here, or in this wrapper for the SDK, you don't even get an unsuccessful message, nothing. It just stops if you call the function twice or triple too quickly. And in this tutorial, we are going to go through how to implement it like in a worker queue. Actually, it's even a on-demand worker queue that I'm going to show you. And to process all these unlock achievement operations correctly and safely. And then it's going to work in all cases. It's just going to process every unlock achievement operation one after another. And like you see here, these are my test functions to do exactly that, or to test that. And the thing is, if you want Steam to work at all in Unreal Engine, there's a tutorial in the description down below how to do it. I can go through with you quickly how to set it up here, but the focus of the tutorial is going to be how to write this unlock achievement function in this correct way, right? But still, I'm going to show you first, before we start with the real tutorial, how to set up Steam correctly. The first thing you need is to set up some plugins. So if you go to edit plugins and we check out the plugins and you search for online here, you get a list of stuff, and I just followed the same tutorial that I link in the description. I enabled this plugin here, this plugin as well, and I also enabled this here, and this here. In words, it's the online base, framework plugin, online services, and so on. Online subsystem, subsystem null, and the utils, and obviously the Steam one as well, online subsystem Steam. So we enable these plugins to be able to use it. And in the tutorial that I put in the description how to set up it correctly, you have to download the Steam SDK, but I'm not sure if this is still the case. I can't remember. I don't know if I put the SDK by hand there or if it was already there, because if you go into your Epic Games, where you have your Unreal Engine installed, program files, Epic Games, UEFI3 in this case, engine source, third party, Steamworks. In this path here, this path exists, and here's a Steam version that is inside. And there's the Steamworks build.cs, and if you look at that, there's a version here, 1.53. And I think in the tutorial they say to change this, but it didn't work for me to change this, because I don't recompile the whole Unreal Engine, right? I only compile my project, which means this thing here didn't work or is not going to work. I don't really know for sure, but what I know is that you just have to put the correct version with the name Steam v153 in this case in here, and here's the SDK and everything of the SDK. But the thing is, what I personally can't remember if the stuff that is already here is enough. It could be that you don't have to download anything and it just works. And 1.53, it's for 5.3, but for 5.5, for example, if we look at third party Steamworks, here it's 1.57, and I personally don't know if I downloaded this or if it was there before. Because if it's there before, it's probably just going to work. I would try it first before I download and replace stuff. I did this for 5.3, for Unreal 5.3. Let's go back to the folder. For this here, I re-downloaded the stuff and just put it there. But and it works, but I don't know if you have to. But if you have to, there's this webpage here. Okay, partners.steamgames.com downloads list. Okay, and here you can download the specific version. You see, there are a lot of versions, and in my case, I just downloaded 153A for the Unreal Engine 5.3 version. And yeah, you can download the SDK that you need if you need it, or if you should need it. And that's these things, but there's more to it. You need to change some stuff in the default engine ini, and you will see all that in the video tutorial that I linked in the description. But nonetheless, I'm going to go through this here with you quickly as well. If you look at that, this is what you need to make it work. And this here also, I think. This here should also be needed as far as I remember. I mean, I have it here. So this is the stuff that I added to make it work. These are the achievements. This is the app ID, your app ID. Enabled it, default provider Steam. And this is also needed. There's a tutorial for that from Unreal or for Epic, from Epic. And yeah, you can just copy the stuff from there, or you try to copy or to rewrite it from this video. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure that you have your correct app ID here and you got the achievements. So you always write this like that. This is how you write this, okay? And then this is the key that you have in Steam. So you have to create the achievements in Steam, in the Steam dashboard, and then you just make sure it's the same at both. So let's have a look at that. So this is my Steam page for Captain Carnage. We can go to the settings and under statistics and achievements, click achievements, and in here you can create a new achievement. And all these keys here, you see, all these keys here have to be the same as here. All right. And one more thing, to test it inside your editor, you need this Steam app ID.txt file with your app ID. You need to place or to create it inside a specific folder, which is not here. It's in binaries, I think, and it should be here. Yeah, it's here. You see, your project, your Unreal project, binaries, Win64, and then it's here. So what I mean with project, this is your project. Basically here it's a C++ project, but your project is, it can be Blueprint as well. Doesn't really matter. This is needed for testing it in the editor if you want to test it. And testing it in the editor means that if you press play here, this is not going to work. What is going to work is a standalone game. You have to start it from there. And we are going to go through that anyway. So that's the preparation, how to get these things working. But please, I may have forgotten something in this quick explanation. So check the other tutorial for that. And now we are going to dive into the real tutorial, which is how to set this unlock achievement function up, how to write it. And so let's go into this function first. So what I decided to do was to put this function in my game instance. Why? Because I want this function to be available everywhere. And with the game instance, I can just access it from everywhere and it's always there. So you can change your game modes and whatever you like, and your game instance is still always there. And that's why I placed this here, these events here in this function. And why does it have to be events? And why not functions, right? I mean, I could have functions like all these other functions I have here, but no, I decided to go with an event here, like some other events that I have. And there are two reasons for it. The first reason is Of course, because we need some timer, and you start these timers with the event, you start them in your event graph. So this is the event graph, just if you wonder what this is, because I have so many tabs open here. I mean, I can close all these tabs. We don't need them. This is the event graph. And that's not the only thing. And I run into this issue, which for me, it cost me a lot of time. And I'm going to show you that issue. And it is this function here. So this function will not appear if you are in a function. It only appears if you are in an event graph. And that's an Unreal thing. This function is a function of getPlayerController. It has this write achievement progress. That's how it's called in 5.3. I think in 5.5 it's called write progress. There's the word achievement is not there, I think in 5.5. But it's the same function. And yeah, to be able to access this function, you have to be in an event. It's not going to show otherwise. Maybe there's some other stuff where it would show, or some cases, but in this case, how we want to use it, we just write our logic inside the event graph, and that's it. We can call this function anyway from anywhere, because it's in the game instance, which is also nice. You can probably also write it in the static function library, but I don't do that. I prefer to have it in my game instance, and that's my way of coding. There are 100 ways of doing it probably. Anyway, let's move on. So what we do here, we have this unlock achievements, lock achievement functions. So why is it true? Why do we have a lock achievement? Because when we want to test the achievements, we also want to test it in a way that we lock the previously unlocked achievements, so we can unlock them again and test things, right? And that's why we write two functions. And for this to work correctly, I decided to use a struct and cache it with the ID and the progress. So the first thing we do is we create a struct, actually, and that's the struct. I created this struct somewhere in my project. Actually, I can show you. It's just here. It's just a struct. If you don't know how to create structs in Unreal, structure, right mouse, blueprint, structure. And when you have this structure, you can just add variables, achievement ID in this case, which is a name, fname actually, and a progress, which is a float. So these are the two variables that I need for that, or you are going to need as well. And if you have this struct, you just use it. So you create it. You can make this struct, right? And then say this is the achievement ID. And for unlocking, we write 100 for the progress, and for the locking, we write 0 for the progress. And how this thing works is we use here these three variables. That's our three variables that are required for our on-demand queue to process all these lock or unlock operations. And in this queue here, if you look at it, it's just an array, right? So we implemented the queue using an array, and it's an array of the type of our achievement data, right? You see as achievement data type, which is our struct. That's the type of this list. And therefore we say add, and you get this make function by saying make. You see, then you get this here, and then you can add it. You add it to the queue here, you add it to the queue here as well, depending on what function is going to be called. And then everything afterwards is processed the same. That's why both of these events go to the same branch. And in here we check if our timer, which we have here, this is a time handle, which we use here. If this time handle is valid, we do nothing because the handle is already started. So our queue is already running. So we don't do anything if it's running. We do nothing here. If it's false, which means the queue has not been started yet because it never was started before or because it ended after a previous start, we start it. So we start this queue using this logic. And what you also have to look at is to make sure this is not null, okay? Time is not allowed to be null because if the time would be null, 0.0, 0.0, with null I meant here 0, basically, the value 0. It's not going to start at all, this event. So that's an Unreal thing, a blueprint thing, so it needs some value in here to start it. And our value is 0.01. Okay, that's a very short amount of time. It's going to fire this pretty quickly. And after calling that function, we cache our handle. We set our handle here. That's our handle, we set it here. And this is our event. You see, these are connected. I don't know if you see it, but this goes in here. And yeah, this event is going to be called. And here is our logic. This is our loop. This is actually a loop here that we have here. And here we do some stuff. And the first thing we do is we check if there are elements in the queue that we want to process. If there are no elements left, if we processed everything, we stop the queue by invalidating our handle. We just invalidate this, and then Unreal or these functions here know that the queue has finished. So it would need to create a new queue. It's a queue on demand, right? To process new things if you need new things to be processed. And so this is just, it finished. We have no elements left, we finish it. And this works in cooperation with this here to start this new. And because we always add to the queue, right? We always in the beginning, we add to the queue to process it. So even if you jump here, if this is already started, we add it to the queue here, which means when we are in this loop here, it's going to process the stuff. So let's jump to the loop. So if we have something to process, we process it. And here we are using a first in, first out. Yeah, that's how queues are, right? Approach. And we get the first element and we cache it into this variable here. So we get the first element of our queue, cache it, and then we remove it from the queue. That's just a pop function in a queue, which we implemented with this array. Nothing else that happens here. Very simple, really super simple logic. So we got the element that we want to process and we removed it from the queue. And we are still in this loop, right? It's still a valid loop. So at the moment, if this function, while we are in this loop, this function would be called, it would add new stuff to the queue, which is not a problem for us, not a problem for this loop here. Now to the unlock logic. What we do is we get our player controller, which in this case is the 0. If you have some multiplayer game, you will have a more complicated logic to acquire the correct player controller that is the player. And yeah, in this case, we always have to call this cache achievement function. And on success, we call this write achievement progress, or in 5.5, write progress function. And on failure, we just say something on the caching failed. This just for us to get some debug information if this should fail. But it has never jumped here in my case. I have never gotten this error before. But still, it's good to have this here. And independently, if it failed or not, it has to progress the loop. So this is why it moves here to our loop. So let's move on. Then we call the write function, like said, and on success, we say we wrote some achievement, and then on failure, we write the debug message again. And then all these paths you see, they lead to 1 point, so that we can continue this loop here and then check again if there are elements left, process, and otherwise don't, or otherwise stop this on-demand queue. And here I wrote a comment, delays are not needed, but cleaner to handle it that way. I'm not so sure anymore about that, because I mean, to be honest, we have here on failure, right, and unsuccess. So these are already events that are been fired at some point in time. I'm not so sure if we need this. It will work with this and without this. So I'm going to show you, maybe I should show you, because I didn't show you at all that this thing works. So I would like to show you the standalone game, but I can't show you because it somehow opens it on my second monitor, which sucks, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to show it to you in a different way because I have a build as well, a debug build, because in this case you will need a debug build. So I have here some debug build. It's actually an older one, but it doesn't matter. In the debug build I can show you that as well. And yeah, let's show it like that if there is no other option right now for this capturing, because I don't want to just change all the configuration or how I measured all that stuff. So let's go inside the game. And if I press, for example, one of my debug buttons, M here, you see on the top left corner, it's unlocking from the queue, and on the bottom, you are seeing all the achievements popping up one after another. Right? So that's what this queue does, and I can remove them by pressing a button. And yeah. And then I can unlock it again if I press the other button again. You know, you see, I can unlock the same stuff again because I locked it with my debug buttons. And yeah, let's get rid of them again. So I'm getting rid of them while they are unlocking. So even that works in this queue. But anyway, let's quit this here. And let's have a look at the player character. But before I do that, so just to finish that, I'm not so sure about this anymore, if it's cleaner or not. Right? I don't know if like that it's cleaner or not, you know, to get rid of this. Do it how you like. I can't say anymore for sure if it's better like that or not. So yeah, it's a tricky question actually. I mean, it doesn't matter. And if it doesn't matter, is it really cleaner to have 2 more delay nodes here? That's the question, right? Yeah. But anyway, let's move on how to test this. So we are back to the player character, which is our character here, which is being spawned, where I can press buttons. So for debug purposes, for locking and unlocking, I use N and M. And I always check if I'm packaged for distribution or not, because otherwise you could make the mistake that you forget to remove these things here, these debug functions, and then you have it in the game, and this is what you absolutely don't want. This is why I always add this kind of checks. And only if you are not in distribution, only in the false case, here and here, only in the false case you do the logic here, which is you get your game instance, you cast it to our game instance class that has these 2 functions, and from there you call lock achievement, and this is the lock case, and this is the unlock case, and here you call unlock achievement. And as you see, I can put them next to each other and it's still going to work. And this is what this tutorial was for the whole time, just to be able to do that, right? And yeah, that's basically it. That's how you do it, how you write this on-demand queue to be able to unlock achievements at the same time, because in your game you may run into this case, you know, if you have some weird timings that the player, for whatever reason, unlocks two achievements very close to each other, and then nothing is going to be unlocked. This is bad, right? It's a bug, it's a bad situation. And to avoid that, yeah, this is how you do it. And that's the end of the tutorial. Thank you, and until next time. Bye.